Okay, I think we're good. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Bezerra Spiritual Healing Center. For those who are listening to us for the very first time, we are a non-denominational spiritual center, and we respect all religions, all spiritual traditions. So everybody's welcome to bring your thoughts, your questions. We are in a safe place for us to study and for us to grow together. Before we begin, we always start with a prayer. So I would like to invite our dear brother Charles to lead us.
Good morning, everyone. It's a beautiful day. I'd like to invite you to go to the special place in your mind where you have the most important connection with the spiritual realm, especially with our divine creator and our brother Jesus Christ and the mentors that have as a mission to accompany us in this lifetime. So together we'll bring ourselves to pray that everyone that we have connections with, physical or spiritual, also receive the benefits of the energy that is generated here at this service on Sundays. We pray for those brothers and sisters that are in position of leadership throughout the world, that they are responsible for the well-being of so many, that they also receive the benefits of the positive energy generated here and make a contribution to the improvement of the world conditions at this point of transition that we're going through. And in particular, we ask that the mentors inspire our brother Brian Abeel for, in his presentation, convey the messages that are sent to all of us. In your name, of Father, in the name of our brother Jesus Christ, our mentors, we pray for the blessings of this service today, and so be it.
And so it is. Thank you, brother. All right, so BSH is a member of the United States Spiritist Federation, and our beliefs are grounded in scientific, philosophical, and spiritual principles of Spiritism. Today, we will have someone talking to us about a study that we are doing in the Spirit's book. But before doing that, I just want to give you all the opportunity to see what are all the events and the meetings that we have throughout the week, so we can keep that learning process. Let me share my screen very quickly. If you go to bshcenter.org, here. If you go to bshcenter.org/events, you will have here our weekly schedule. It's always the same Zoom link. On Sundays, we have the service followed by healing passes. So don't forget to bring your bottle of water so then it can be magnetized. In a daily basis, we have prayers at 6 p.m. Typically it takes 15-20 minutes for all of us to not only give, but also to receive. We also have fraternal counselings. If you or anyone you know is in need, do let us know. We'll be happy to talk to this person. We are here for you and with you. You don't have to go through anything alone. We are here to support however we can. And we have plenty of book studies groups. Our studies begin at 6:30 p.m. and it takes usually an hour and a little bit more, depending on the group. But it's always 6:30 Pacific time. So on Sunday, starting in April, we're going to start reading the book Liberation, beautiful book. On Tuesdays, we are reading The Consoler. This one is in collaboration with the Divine Light Spiritist group, but it's also the same Zoom link. On Wednesdays, we recently started Paul and Stephen, beautiful book too. And then on Thursdays, we are still reading Living Spring. On Mondays, we have a mediumship service, And the first part is education on mediumship principles. But for anyone to join this part, needs to go through the introduction to Spiritism and then be invited to this group, because the second part, which is composed only by workers, it's not open for the public, but we do support all of those who are in spiritual or physical needs. So if you or anyone who you know is in need, do let us know via message here or email, however you can, or info@bshcenter.org. Excuse me. And we'll be happy to add this person to our treatment book. The treatment takes usually 4 weeks, and we highly encourage the person who is in treatment to stay in tune on Mondays, 6:30, 7:30-ish, so then the person can be open for the service. And as I mentioned, we will have Brian talking to us today. And so Brian is going to talk to us about resurrection of the body, is a topic on the Spirit's book. And for those who do not know Brian, he is a founding member of the Bezerra Spiritual Healing Center. And at an early age, he could see and communicate with spirits. However, he suppressed his spiritual gifts until a life-changing experience caused him to embrace his study of mediumship and healing. In 2005, Brian graduated from Nancy Bradley's Truth and Healing Center as a healing medium. And he continued working with her until 2009. And then in 2012, Brian began studying mediumship and spiritism with Tanya and Greg Stewart of Brazilian Spiritual Healing. Brian is an environmentalist with over 33 years of experience working in various federal, state, local, and private agencies for the protection of California's environment, citizens, and property, which we are very grateful for. Brian is grateful for the divine opportunities, loving and serving God's will, and we are tremendously honored to have you here today, brother. So please help me to give him a warm welcome.
Thank you, everyone. It's good to be here today. I'm definitely in a different mindset. And a lot of you know that I have been, oops, wrong one. Stop sharing. A lot of you know that I've been caring for my mother, and she finally passed in January. And I'm now returning to a life before helping her for the last 8.5 years with her dementia. So I guess you could say that I'm going through a rediscovery right now. And I should have the PowerPoint presentation in front right now.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And I just want to say that she provided me a lot of opportunity while taking care of her, especially the last year staying with her when she was in home hospice, for the resurrection of my body. But as we all know in Spiritism, the resurrection of the body occurs with the resurrection of the spirit and the paraspirit. And we all know, the majority of us here, what I can see who's participating is that it's really about reincarnation, and this is where the presentation is going to go. But I want you all to keep in mind the resurrection of the body in this present time, something that we can sanctify. And we'll talk about that. And this discussion, this presentation, is meant to be an open dialogue. And without your participation, the points in the communication about the topic really will not have been deserving of the time here today. So I do encourage all of you to participate. I am going to try to change what I'm seeing in regards to people so I can see the whole PowerPoint. Okay, great. So here's our agenda. We'll cover the Spiritism triple aspect core elements just as a rememorization. We'll get into the resurrection and Spiritist doctrine, what it means, and we'll have a little comparison across traditions in Christianity. There'll be near the end, and then remembering the purpose of the earthly life, especially right now, the present. So as we all know, the triple aspect of Spiritism is philosophy, science, and religion. And as philosophy, it deals with the moral implication of such relationships. The Spirit book does focus on the moral consequences that occur between relationships of the spirit and the physical world, but it involves not only reading the book, but also discussion of the book and discussion of the medium answers. And I always have appreciated when we talk about the Spirit's book or any of the books that was written, vesseled by Allan Kardec, the Medium's book, Heaven and Hell, Gospel According to Spiritism, and Genesis. We begin to have a deeper understanding, and it's the spirits have informed us that it's meant to talk about because this is a doctrine of reason, not blind faith. And it does consider science, and we all know Allan Kardec was a scientist, and he brought his scientific skill set to writing those 5 books. And there's many more books that followed that were psychographed by many mediums. Um, but he applied his science endeavor to determine if this was actually true or not. And like myself, he began to peel away the onion of doubt and applying his science and his understanding. We'll talk a little bit about the science in regards to the resurrection of the body. And religion, as we know, Spiritism is non-denominational. It's a constitutive religion, meaning it has the power to establish or give organized existence to something, but it's all done by reason. That's what, well, constitutive means having the power to establish or give organized existence to something. That would involve cult, rites, temples, and that's what not Spiritism is all about. It's about reasoning. It's about listening, reading, sharing, communicating, talking about it all, and then applying it to our lives and seeing what actually happens, and to awaken our consciousness. And that's what God wishes for, is for our free will to awaken our consciousness. Now, remember, Allan Kardec stated, Spiritism is a science that deals with nature, origin, and destiny of spirits and their relation with the corporal world. So the core elements of Spiritism we know as the existence of God, soul mortality, reincarnation, which we'll be focusing in on today in regards to the resurrection of the body, multiple worlds, and spirits communication. And as the majority of us know, God is the supreme intelligence, the first cause of all things. God is eternal, immutable, immaterial, unique, omnipotent, supremely just, and good. The Spirit's book and the questions before the questions that we'll focus in on today, 1010 and 1011, cover the existence of God as well as the immortality of the soul. The soul survives physical death and continues evolving in the spirit realm. And the reincarnation, the moral progress, unfolds across multiple lifetimes, enabling learning and growing over time. And the multiple worlds and that we will be a part of depending on our vibrational frequency, how we apply our free will. And the spirit communication, Spiritism is about communicating with the spirit world, the spirit world communicating with us to inform us of what really the real truth is about who we are, what we're about, what we're doing here, and what happens after we're here when our body perishes. Um, In traditional religion, the resurrection of the body is supposed to arise at a certain occasion later, as the spirit has gone through a process on the other side. But Spiritism, as we all know, goes in another direction where it's not the body, it's the spirit that grows, and it grows through multiple lives, multiple vessels. It grows on the spirits, on the spirit, on in the spirit world as well as in the corporal world. And we'll talk more about this as we move along. So here are just a couple of bullets of Spiritism's distinction and evolution. Spirit, as we all know, is eternal and it's the individual essence. And the soul is a spirit expression in differing incarnate states of existence. We'll flip back and forth with the words soul and spirit, but I just want to remind us all that soul is when we're in body and spirit when we're not. And the spirit evolves through successive incarnations, carrying forward experiences and character. We grow. We do not regress. We can be stagnant. The central aim from one life from the next, and also in the spirit world, is always moral and intellectual progress. And Spiritism rejects materialism by affirming the spirit endures across lifetimes. It has different bodies, whereas materialism believes that there's just one body. And it's the perispirit that links our soul and body, and that's where our vibrational frequency is stored, that we can work on through our moral and intellectual progress. We do not have the ability to bring into the spirit world what materially we gained here. It's the moral and intellectual aspects of life, how we apply it within our free will. And that will determine our future life and how we enter the spirit world. We'll talk a little bit more about that in regards to the resurrection of the body through reincarnation process. So this whole presentation is about focusing in on the Spirit's book questions 1010 and 1011. We have a little note here that when this was originally published in the French edition, Kardec listed the question 1010A, not 1011. He missed the number. That's just a little side note. I want to flip along to my notes. So I'm just going to quickly just state my interpretation, and then we'll get into the summary of the questions and what the spirits are trying to relay to us. In question 1010, the question is, does the resurrection of the body signify reincarnation as now taught by the spirits through Spiritism? And the answer is yes. Keep that in mind. And then the question 1011, does this church actually teach reincarnation with the dogma of the resurrection of the body? And yes, it depends on who's talking. There's different interpretations. Keep in mind that Spiritism doesn't occur inside a church, even though we do follow the gospel according to Spiritism, which is Jesus's teachings, Jesus's doctrine. But really, the Church of Spiritism is everywhere. It's nature. It's wherever we are. So here we get into the summarization of those questions. And Allan Kardec, with his scientific wisdom and working with the mediums and responses, answered this questions that the spirits argued that the physical atoms of a body decompose, eventually becoming part of other living things. If you think about when our plants in our garden die, and it's time to pull out the dying crop and put in a new crop, what do? A lot of us create manure, and we take the dead material and we put it into a box, and we add a little water and we turn it periodically, and it decomposes in the dirt, and we add that as fertilizer to our garden. So we do experience this breakdown, and those materials go into becoming part of the new plants that are forming. And so it just, in Spiritism's view, and in the view of the spirits relaying it through the mediums and Allan Kardec, that it's just scientifically impossible for these atoms to re-come together because they're so well distributed within nature, to become something else, that they don't magically just come together from one part of the world and from another to magically create the same body again. In this day and age, it's probably even easier to understand that because we have fertilizers that are created in Europe and are brought over to the United States. So things that have been died and decomposed over in Europe are now coming to the United States, and sometimes things that have decomposed here have been shipped over to Europe for their fertilization process. So it's just not scientifically possible for things to reunite when they're separated around this world. And the answer also for 1010 and 1011 in regards to spiritual progress, the resurrection is actually the soul, the spirit returning to a new life, reincarnation, to continue its evolution. And once again, Spiritism refers to the soul as the spirit while incarnated. This is different than the final judgment, which rather than a single day where graves open, the body just seems to come out through this resurrection. It is not the case, but we do resurrect the spirit as a soul within these new bodies from one life to the next. And what the whole goal here and the aim of God, the cause of all causes, has deemed it to be through God's laws that we progress from one life to the next by using our free will to develop our moral and intellectual evolution. It's just not wham, bam, and we're done in one lifetime. As we think back to some of the books of Spiritism, talks about maybe a child that dies young or an adult that dies old. How can a child die such a suffering death of maybe cancer? And the explanation is that it comes from a previous life. And through this life, it's actually, I guess, they say it's paying the price, but also providing of its past life for its deeds, but it's also providing a nurturing development for the ones that are around them, so that they can experience the loss of one. And who's to say what the ones who are here dealing with that loss, what they did in their previous life? But we're always aiming to embrace each other as brothers and sisters, not with the body, but as the spirit. And we'll go ahead and move on. I do want to make a note that in question 92, the paraspirit is introduced, and it's introduced as the mold for the spirit. And throughout the spirit's book, it's defined as the mold, the semi-material envelope, which holds the vibrational frequency. It preserves the identity and form of the individual, that being the spirit. It is the fluidic link from the universal cosmic fluid to the body when the spirit is incarnated as soul in body. It is the blueprint when a spirit reincarnates, acting as a magnetic template, so to speak, that organizes the new physical matter from the parents and environment into a new body that fits the spirit's current level of advancement or trials it needs to face. And it's always dependent on our vibrational frequency, our moral evolution, material. Are we still holding on to the material world, or are we progressing and letting go of that and embracing Jesus's teachings from one life to the next? That vibrational frequency has an impact on the physical matter, and how our body will be designed in the life that we're incarnating into. So once again, let's think about our body today. What are we doing um, to develop this vibrational frequency? How are we treating our body? And it's not so much how are we treating our body, but how are we treating our spirit? How are we treating our paraspirit that is photographing, recording this vibrational frequency? If you have some aches and pains, think about then where you are in regards to your moral evolution, your choices. As we move along in life, we know that through our studies together, that our body reacts based on how our spirit acts with the free will and imposes upon our paraspirit. So if we make a decision that we have trouble with and it rattles us and it makes us feel heavy, what we're doing is we're rattling our paraspirit and we're rattling our spirit, and we're developing a negative vibrational frequency which will impact our body. So we have the ability to heal our body through our moral choices, which will eventually impact our next life. But what we have is this life today. So it's very important to always sanctify this body by sanctifying our spirit, by awakening more our consciousness, continuing the work and the discipline so that we can resurrect the body within this life. But in regards to Spiritism, the resurrection of the body is all about reincarnation and our evolutionary progress through moral and intellectual progress, by working on how we choose to develop our free will through our thoughts and our actions. So there's many books that we can talk about, but let's focus on the main books that Allan Kardec was involved with, like the Medium's book and then Heaven and Hell. We can get into several different stories, but the main theme is transformation through reincarnation cycles. In the various Spiritist books, bodily resurrection is interpreted differently from the traditional Christian dogma, but it's shared in these books about the misguidedness of a spirit and what they thought was the true reality. But in the passing, they begin to understand that there is a resurrection of the spirit, not the body. And the whole reason why we're here is to work on our moral evolution and not our material gain. The mediumistic book helps us communicate with the spirit world, to understand these communications. And the Heaven and Hell helps us to understand from the spirit's point of view that have been in body, that are on the other side, to communicate through us through these developed mediumistic skill sets that the medium book provides us with, to understand that it is about the evolution of the spirit, not the progress of the body in one lifetime. And they talk about the death as a passage, not an end. It's a spirit's liberation as a soul, from physical body into the spirit world. And when we're in the spirit world, we're continuing it. We're trying to release the material world. Some of us cling to the material world. Some of us still want to have that gold that's in the previous life that we gained, but we don't have it anymore. All we have is that vibrational frequency of our moral and intellectual progress. And the spirits try to tell us this in the Heaven and Hell, as well as the many psychograph books of Spiritism from the many mediums like Chico and Divaldo. Gospel. This is where we learned how to go through this moral and intellectual evolution. This is where Christianity and Spiritism are on the same page. in regards to Jesus, and Jesus was the Savior for us. Unfortunately, he was put on the cross, um, and because individuals did not believe in what Jesus is trying to tell us. But as we've been told by the spirits, because they remove the veil of a lot of the Jesus's parables and allegories, to really tell it how it is, rather than keep that veil and make us guess. They really want to unveil it. And the organized teachings of Jesus, with each chapter of the gospel, provide us a clue on how we progress from one life to the next, not by material gain, but by working on our purity of our soul, the purity of our heart, by charity, by assisting our brothers and sisters through our daily activities, not from what we can take from them, but what we can give. And in giving, we receive. And what we receive is this greater consciousness, which will be the vibrational frequency of that will stay with us in that paraspirit, and it will be connected to our spirit, and we will take it into the spirit world, and we'll be able to continue to mold that paraspirit based on how we apply those moral and intellectual teachings that Jesus taught us. So, this is basically a review of the Spiritist view of Jesus's teaching. And Jesus is always trying to teach us, and he did in years ago, and with his parables and allegories, and the spirits are unveiling that death is only a process to remove the ignorance and sins. When we go into the spirit world, we have the ability to reflect, to rejuvenate. We can be resistant if we were resistant in this lifetime. And as we all know, when we are resistant in body, we tend to create diseases, and we can take the stubbornness of those diseases with us in that vibrational frequency, because of our moral character. Um, and the rise and walk that Jesus was always trying to teach us was to elevate one's moral character. He was always trying to lift everyone, no matter if they were poor, rich, smart, ignorant, in pain, or flying, and so to speak, in the way that they chose to live their life because they were following the moral preachings of Jesus. But he was always trying to keep us humble so that we would always try to keep climbing the ladder of this moral and intellectual development. And we're walking right now in the body in this material world. So once again, check in with your body. What's working for you? What's not? Today I went to the gym and I did some stretches, and I began to find out certain areas, new areas that are tight in my body because my body is releasing, it's relaxing. But I still have things to work on. And I know that tightness is storing energy. And so I have to figure out what is it that I'm not doing in regards to that moral and intellectual development. How can I change that tightness? What can I work on? How can I assist my neighbor? How can I get out of selfishness? How can I be in that an altruistic, selfless mode, through that charity, that unconditional charity that Jesus talks about? And when I do that, I notice that I can walk more freely. I seem to walk above the ground. So, in this life, it's all about the walk. It's not the talk. We can talk what we need to do, but as Dr. Paulo always tells us, work, 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 discipline, discipline, discipline. And we always can improve upon that if we always stay humble, don't put us on the pedestal. We don't stand in front of others and choose to talk down to them. We choose to talk as equals. to provide, to give, because we always are receiving. And when we do, we are resurrecting our body. But once again, with Spiritism, the whole point of these questions, 1010 and 1011, is about resurrection of the body as reincarnation from one body to the next to improve our moral and intellectual evolution. And once again, it's all about following Jesus's teachings, the moral character of ourselves. This is kind of a repeat of reincarnation. Um, Let me go through my notes real here because I can't see part of this screen because we have that tab up in the beginning. Reincarnation as resurrection. So we have the spirit's departure, leaves the body at death, but really there is no death. It's just the deterioration of that body. That was just a vessel for us. We go back into the spirit world where we can learn and reflect. We can determine how we made our choices. Did we focus more on the material world? Are we still stuck to the material world, or have we liberated us somewhat by letting go of gold and luxuries of the material world and focused more on that altruistic way of life, the selfless way of life of giving to our neighbors, our brothers and sisters? And after some reflection, we're going to go back into body and reincarnation, that resurrection. But it is known as reincarnation in Spiritism. That's what those questions are. The responses to those questions are providing an answer to those questions. And the answer is pretty much repetitive throughout the Spirit's book. It's just a matter of us opening up more to the truth. How many times do we read a story and the first time we read the story, we see it this way, and then the next time we read the story, we see it a little different, a little deeper. We're more open to what's being taught. And that's what reincarnation is all about. It's about awakening our consciousness at a deeper level with each time. But we can get stuck. We won't regress. But we can get stuck if we choose to stop humbling ourselves and stop moving forward with that moral and intellectual development and rather cling to that material world, the gain within the world of where we are and vessel. And it's all about moral advancement. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to get to the ultimate divine reunification with God. We're building our wings from one life to the next. And the great thing is that God has given us the free will to do that, not with one body, but many bodies, and also in the spirit world. So we're always evolving. That's the beauty of it. And here we get into the differences. And we have the traditional resurrection, which literally the body returns after death, restoration of the physical body at a final judgment or decisive event. It's either heaven or hell. And how can a little kid who dies of cancer at 5 years old, who barely even began the life, didn't even have the chance to develop either in a sinful way or a purified way, how can God then make a determination that that person's going to go to heaven and hell? It just doesn't make sense. But it does make sense if we think about reincarnation from one body to the next, and the paraspirit and the storage of our vibrational frequency, the karma aspect kind of that other religions like Hinduism has. And it's not a one-time thing, it's a multiple thing. But traditional says that we only live once. Our body will resurrect. Spiritism differs with that we have many incarnations. It's all about moral advancement from one body to the next. Traditional religion basically says you got to get it right once. You only have one chance. And if you don't, we're going to condemn you. Pain and suffering. The only pain and suffering is how we choose our free will from this one vessel to the next. And this is what Spiritism unveils to us in so many different ways. The Spirits book has so many questions, but once again, all it is from one question to the next. It's unveiling more of the truth. It's as we move from one question to the next, if we have been really studying each question and the answers, it's kind of like a building block for us to have a deeper understanding with the next opening, so to speak, of the truth. And let's just take reincarnation. Um, it has been talked about in many questions within the book. And we could reread this and have a different idea of the deeper meaning of moral evolution. But let's just keep in mind today that we can work on our moral evolution by making the right choices. And Jesus is the mentor for that. The Beatitudes. Once again, here's some differences between Spiritism and Christianity. We pretty much have already really talked about these, so I'm going to move on. And this is the focus that I want us to remember is let's remember the earthly life, the purpose of the earthly life. And as we're told by Spiritism, it's to develop morally and intellectually by following Jesus's doctrine, the Beatitudes, so we can resurrect our body now. We can make it healthier by making the right decisions. We can pay attention to when we do make a decision or the thoughts in our mind. How does our body react? We can learn. We can know if we are in harmony, how it reacts. We really need to pay attention more to our body and our thoughts and our actions and how they're impacting the body. We truly can resurrect the body within the life that we're living within the body. It's a matter of choice. It's a matter of free will. How are we going to act on it? And in closing, these are just some words to consider about how to do that. It's always said that charity is salvation, love is the highest frequency, letting go of the toxicity is forgiveness, faith, as we peel back the onion and we see the progress and we know that that God is with us as we awaken our consciousness. As Dr. Paula reminds us, continue the work, be disciplined, be righteous in your choices, have indulgence for our neighbor, act in peace with humility, not above them, not below them, but with them, and have mercy on each other. And by having mercy for another with maybe a wrong that they might have done, that's what we're doing is we're having mercy on ourselves and we're allowing ourselves to be free of any resentment that we might have by acting out that word forgiveness with indulgence, looking past with what has been done and continually befriending our neighbor in an altruistic way, a selfless way, not in what we can take, but what we can give. And as we do that, our heart, our spirit, our mind can be pure, and we can help mold that paraspirit, our paraspirit that connects us to this body, connects our spirit to the body as a soul and living in this life, so that when this body does perish, we'll go into that spirit world and we'll take that vibrational frequency that we have raised because of the choices that we've made through our free will in a moral way. So I hope this presentation has been useful. Hopefully, there's one, two, or three things that you've walked away here today with this. And I want to open the floor now to hear from you, to stimulate discussion on this topic, because this is what's important, is to hear from others so that you can help us, each other, awaken our consciousness to really what the truth is on how to sanctify our body as we are today, which does sanctify our spirit and our paraspirit, so that we can continually to evolve morally and intellectually. Thank you.
Thank you so much, brother. I love this topic, especially for the today, that is Sunday. Palmer Sunday, is that how is it? Palm Sunday, Sunday. Um, where, like 1 week before Easter, when we celebrate Jesus getting into Jerusalem. And I think it's very interesting to understand and to study the resurrection of the body, because it's exactly what is going symbolically going on this week, the death of Jesus Christ, and then how he's going to resurrect within us. So I think it's a very reflective topic, and I think it's interesting. First, I love that the Spirit's book bring that to what does it mean? Like what does resurrection mean, and how that is aligned with reincarnation, and how that is aligned with our evolution. And I absolutely love the way that you made us reflect on how that is reflecting not only on our mental bodies, but also in our physical bodies, right? Like it's part of the journey for us to care for our vessel. um and I think, yeah, I think it's just beautiful that it all brings one unique aura of evolving for all of our layers. As you were speaking, I was thinking about the layers of our body, and how that is reflected lifetime to lifetime. So our physical body, our emotional body, our mental body, and then our spiritual body. So that resonated really well with me. Thank you, brother.
I will say this. Um, Death lights up everybody. They think about their own immortality and how they're going to, um, where they're going when they pass, Um, and but when you study spirituality, it helps um, your understanding. It helps remove a lot of the ignorance around it, and you become a little calmer about it, even when it's others in your family. But you still have to think about your own immortality, especially the older you get, the more it's in your face. Um, but it is a process. And I think about it because when Jesus um, was here, his main teaching was for us to have this knowledge, to know that we're not going to be here forever and where we're going to go after we no longer have a body. And I think it's important for us to continue with our studies, because the more you hear it, it becomes more common, and you become calmer and more understanding of the process. Because you can't just walk up to somebody and say, well, there's life after death, and they don't have no information behind it. It's not going to stop them from being paranoid or freaking out or being afraid. It takes this education, and it's good to hear it repeatedly, and it's good to study as well. That's important too. So anyway, thanks, Brian.
Thank you. I had mentioned, I forgot to mention where we were at the Gospel According to Spiritism slide, to remember questions 132 to 133. the necessity of reincarnation, necessity imposed by God to lead spirit to perfection, and for some in its expiation, correcting past mistakes. For others, it's a mission helping others. While I was taking care of my mom, and with the dementia, at times I was like, my mom's way of life, maybe that's why she had dementia. But then there were times when I thought, was my mom advanced more than me or not? Was she helping me? Was I helping her? Um, and I could get lost in the analyzation of that and what is and what ifs um, and sometimes we do get caught up in those ifs and whats and isms. But what's really important is not so much of who's advanced and who's not, and who's helping and who's not, and who's bad or who's good. It's a matter of how we're going to respond. And that's what Jesus was trying to teach us, is how are we going to respond with where we are at this present time. Because that will always impact where we will be once we leave here. And you talked about the death, Regina, and I don't know, that just reminded me of that note that I had made, and I wanted to share that before we moved on with other shares here.
I have a question. I'm still moving in the car, so I'm not showing my face right now, but you were introduced as having connections or seeing spirits early in life. And then, of course, you made reference to various books that you've read and so forth and so on. I'm just kind of curious what that was like, that early, and whether or not the book information helped answer stuff for you, or did you feel normal to have that kind of awareness at an early age? Just what was that like?
Well, first of all, my life has been an evolution in regards to the answer to that question. And that answer is always expanding. I will say this, that when I was young, and I saw things, I remember when I was laying in bed one night and I saw the spirit walking toward me. This happened twice. And I threw the sheets over me, and then I pulled the sheets back, and the spirit was gone. It happened again another night, and I did it, and I pulled the sheets back over and looked at the area again, and I could see that spirit walking toward me. And of course, I pulled the sheets back over. I didn't really understand what I was seeing, and it kind of scared me. But then again, I was in awe of the moment. I used to tell my mother that I saw people in the window up we had high windows on the eaves, and my mom would dismiss it, and my sister reminded me years later because I had forgotten about it. And what had happened is that I was living in an environment where there were individuals who, especially parental individuals, who had a differing opinion of what I was seeing and was not agreeing with it, and I shouldn't be going there. So I kind of turned it off. And then certain things happened in my life that caused me to drift away from that. But then I was reunited it later in my 30s to refocus again on it. Perhaps it's what I was supposed to go through, the trials and tribulations in between, to then have this reawakening where someone turned on the switch to begin thinking about those past experiences at such a young age, and then begin drifting toward groups where I could start to begin studying mediumship and healing, having animals that came into my life where I felt as if I could communicate. And I say felt because I still didn't know. I had a lot of doubt. There was this gentleman from Australia who came, and Tanya and Greg had invited him, and this is when we went up to a church up in Auburn for a while. And this gentleman came and he did some psychic readings for people, and he brought in my father, or my father was there, and he was running through him. And he said a few things that caused a confirmation of the conversation that were occurring that he would not know. So it got my attention. And then I was told that within 1 year's time, all the doubt, any doubt that I have still, will be completely gone. And finally, within 1 year, I remembered that conversation because I was at that point where I truly believed everything that was happening was actually truly happening. And we do communicate with the spirit world. And there was a time when we were doing rescue work up there, and there was a spirit that came through me. And I don't know if it was Regina who I was working with or another who was a counselor, but at that moment, I knew that this spirit was actually coming through me. He was a very large and gregarious guy. Um, and he laughed like, ho, ho, ho. And I never laughed like that. And I felt like I felt big, and like my whole body was just uh of it's like I was a little heavier, so to speak, and it was him, not me. And I could feel the body just bouncing, and his sides rolling up and down, a little fat that he had on the side. And I was like, oh my God, this is truly happening. And at that same time, almost simultaneously, the readings that we had been doing together and studying together and having philosophical conversations and applying my knowledge to the readings that we were having through these spirit books, and the things that were psychographed by Allan Kardec and psychographed by Chico and psychographed by Devaldo, all of a sudden they're all like coming together, and it's like I'm having this epiphany that this is all truth. This is all truth. And then also having the past experiences when I was a little kid coming back and just flooding into my mind and going, oh my God, it's all making sense. But as I try to explain this to you, I really can't find the words to truly picture for you an answer that would um, help you to fully understand what I'm going through. It's everybody has to go through their own journey to allow this consciousness to be unveiled. The books did help. The conversations with others who had the affinity for what I was going through just helped peel that doubt, that onion, apart. And that man from Australia was just another integral part in the process.
Actually, I think that was quite helpful, believe it or not. So to know what it was like, you've given a pretty good accounting of what it was like for you personally. And as you were making reference to the books and all that and the people, I was wondering, did that help organize things for you? Did it help put things in place for you? And clearly, it sounds like it did. And so it actually was helpful, even though it may not seem like it to you, but it was very helpful to me for you to put it together like that. So I appreciate that.
200%. Yes, it was helpful. And hopefully, if I remain humble, it will continue. The truth will continue to unveil itself, and the truth will come deeper within my consciousness. And I just think it's so beautiful that God has deemed it appropriate for me to go through the trials and tribulations that I have to come to this point. And I have to tell you, I fought them. I didn't enjoy at times taking care of my mother, but I realized, and Tanya was trying to remind me of, and Regina tried to remind me of this, and several of them tried to remind me that it's okay, Brian. It's okay. And you're almost near the end. I remember Tanya telling me this, and when my mom passed, it was like, once again, it was like, oh, it was just a lesson. It's just a lesson. Don't fight her anymore. Just roll with it. Be a part of it. Be the actor and the audience at the same time.
Powerful. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Hey, Brian, thank you for the presentation. It's a good reminder for us to think about what are we doing here and how does this thing work. And that's the contribution of the Spiritism, is to demystify the concept that the resurrection of the body is something that is like a resurgence of the same body. So let's say if I am cremated, it's impossible for me to come back with the same body consistency that I had in my life. But anyways, the other interesting, powerful perspective is that that's a divine instrument that God bestowed over its creation. Is that it's only through reincarnation that we're going to get involved because we've been created simple and ignorant. So we are in a process of development or evolvement, and that's only can be explained by what the Spiritism explained to us so well, the process of reincarnation. So yes, it's like everyone in here, we're going to go through this. And you highlight a very important point as well, that it's a personal experience. So I am responsible for who I am, and I am responsible to make the choices, which direction I choose to go, and it's up to each one of us. So, and of course, I mean, the Spiritism, uh, one example, for example, Allan Kardec, someone that codified the teachings of the spirits. And for him to really continue his work, he came back as Chico Xavier and made a contribution of a channeling of over 480 books with information about the spiritual life, or the spiritual communication. So all this information is out here available to each of us, and it's up to me if I want to go to study it or not, because I think simple ignorant, we start by mastering instinct, and then we go to physical development, and at the same time, we are in the process of improving our moral standards, and that's how we go. But anyways, thank you so much for reminding us of this. It's a very important topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian, for your nice presentation, spiritual presentation was it. And what I have learned is that we talk about the spiritual books or the books that we read in this path, that they should help us to improve ourselves and to improve the world. Thank you.
All right. Do we have any additional questions or comments to Brian? All right. So, brother, thank you once more. Thank you for warming our heart and speeding our reflections into how to apply all of that into our inner transformation. Thank you so much. God bless you. We're gonna take 2 minutes break and we'll be back for the healing passes. So don't forget your bottle of water.